Well, good day, everybody, and welcome once again to the latest edition of the Inworld Review. We are brought to you, of course, in association with AVTV. AVU TV. And today we bring you a special, what I suppose is known as Traders Outside broadcast, because we're at this wonderful event called OBR, 1 Billion Rising, and it's being held here in Second Life. We brought along our set, and we're surrounded by a few extra signs you can see. If you happen to be watching this live, there are still a number of hours left that you can actually come over here and enjoy it. Lots of dancing, lots of rising up, especially by women, which is what the focus is of this event, and also according to the sign, a lot of drumming. So if you like percussion, there's a good reason for coming here too. But generally, it's a celebration against the, well, I won't say the oppression of women, although I think it could be that, but violence against women and indeed other folk, I suppose, women and children especially, throughout the world. A sort of campaign for the elimination of violence. And it has a celebratory nature because it's the idea is people are standing up and sort of saying no. Anyway, what I'm going to do this week, Tara and Maria will be with me shortly to just give you some quick headlines. But to start the show off this week, I'm going to go across to a very good friend of the channel who you probably all know if you've watched this show before. And her name is Saffia Widdershins. And Saffia has been very much instrumental in getting this thing together, along with a whole horde of other people, I hasten to add. But I thought it appropriate that Saffia started the show just to tell us a bit more concisely and pertinently what it's all about. So over to you, Saffia.
Thank you, Mel. Yes, you're right that I've been working with a fantastic team of people, quite a few of whom are on this panel. Pet has been instrumental in organising live streaming of this event and also the possibility of a few little films coming out of it afterwards. And Taralyn Gravois has organised the artists and the art exhibitions that you'll see all the way around. And Adele Ward has organised the poets. We've had some poetry readings.
So we're well sorted here, aren't we, for later? Anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. The aim of 1 Billion Rising, the event has been running for a number of years, but really kind of came to prominence in 2013, and we that was I heard about it on Plurk, and I took it to a Prim Perfect team meeting and mentioned it and said it seemed a shame, we ought to do something for this. And the rest of the team, who included Honor here, Aisling Sinclair, Winona Weifel, Chris Greenwood, they all picked it up and ran with it. And we ended up with 4 Sims for open for the 24 hours of Valentine's Day so that people could come along and join in no matter what their time zone. And with a central dancing stage, the central stage for dancing, which was designed by Vic Mornington, and a central, and all around the edges were art displays, which that first year Honor organised. And it was a fantastic event. We got positive feedback. We got mentions in The Guardian and The New York Times. Very much in passing, but, mentions. And we did it again last year, and we've done it this year. Last year, we introduced poetry for the first time. We had 2 poetry readings, which Adele organised for us. This year, we decided to expand that and actually have performances. And we had dance performances. There's been several of those. We've had like cheerleaders dancing, and we've had some sort of very beautiful interpretive dance, and we've got a whole show of interpretive dance at 11 o'clock tonight, which I'm really looking forward to. It's going to be quite stunning, I think. And gosh, we also had drums. Lauren Tone the well-known audio artist, has put in 4 audio installations. We originally had another audio artist lined up for that, who was very keen to do it, but unfortunately for personal reasons had to pull out. And Lauren, like the absolute trooper he is, stepped up to the plate. And we have 4 different installations in each corner of the sim where you can actually go and experiment with sound and drumming in different ways. The one closest to us, for example, you can all rush off at the end of the show and lambast the hell out of some wonderful drums. It's great fun.
I noticed the theme this year is, well, I don't know what you call it a theme, but a lot of old vinyl spinning records and symbols of sound. Indeed, the stage is built over the top of what seems to be an old-fashioned record player.
That's right. And so, although you probably won't notice it now, is this one. This is a record player too. If you look over to the right-hand side of the stage as you look out, you can see the record arm. And this, we're actually sitting on where the label of the record would be. And if you pull out, you can see the grooves and the tracks. So it's all based around. There's a reason for that. The theme of OBR this year is 1 Billion Rising Revolution. And we actually decided to play upon that in the design ideas, or at least Victor did, and we all loved it.
I'll let you into a dirty. I'll let you into a dirty secret. Actually, I have some. I'm quite fond of them. I've got them in my home here somewhere. Some lovely rotating seats that are like cushions in the air. And the moment I saw the record deck, I thought, well, I could just put rotating seats on this. And then I thought, oh yeah, Petlove's going to love me. Yeah, getting a camera to follow a rotating seat arrangement. But it was an idea, you know.
I can tell you something else funny. 2 of these sims we bought directly from the lab for this event, and the other 2 were very kindly donated by Amaretto with the support of Fruit Island's Kitty Cat's Callie Klein. And then we had other sponsors for the other 2 sims, and we, like I said, got those directly from the lab. But Amaretto very kindly gave us the sims a couple of weeks early so we could experiment with building things. And Victor made his record player stage on those 2 sims, and he worked out a way to get the record to revolve so that it was going round and round and would cover all 4 sims revolving. And it was beautifully done and very, very clever. And we all kind of went and stood on it and said, wow, this is so clever. Now stop it. Make it stop. Because you stand on it for 2 minutes, you feel sick.
Well, it suddenly occurs to me, if it had been me, I'd have put a huge Invisiprim over the top of it. So you still got the effect, but you didn't spin yourself.
You weren't spinning yourself. It was all effect.
Oh, right. Okay.
Just watching it made you feel sick.
A good job it wasn't printed in black and white checks then.
Yes.
The good old 60s illusion things. Yeah.
So, of course, the cause behind this is a really serious and important one. And this whole event is raising awareness of the issues that women and girls face of violence and repression in many ways around the world. We don't try and raise money here. If people want to make donations, we suggest they find their local women's refuge and donate money there. So it's purely about raising awareness, and that's one of the things I like about doing it. And the other is that it's such an international event.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, as well as in Second Life here, it's very much an event in the real world. You like me and Adele here, at least, we're in the UK, and I was pleased, that I didn't go. I was too busy setting up the show, wasn't I? But in Marble Arch in London here, for example. It was on the news despite the weather. There was a very big turnout just down the road in the park for it. So, it's very much a rally, it's established really as a great rallying point for women.
That's very interesting because we haven't heard a peep of it on the news here in the States. I haven't seen one single thing, come to think of it. So pardon me for interrupting.
Wake up, Hillary. Right. Okay. Sorry.
One of the wonderful things about it is that it's given a sense of empowerment to women in really quite desperate situations. One of the things it did in 2013 was women in Bangladesh who had been scarred by acid, which happens as a sort of honour thing quite often, that a woman will have acid thrown in her face, and at which point she will generally just hide away and never be visible again. Wow. And what happened was that women actually came out of their houses and got together and showed their faces. And for them, it was tremendously empowering and has caused kind of changes in attitudes. There's been other countries where men and women have simply walked down a street together as a march, which was completely unheard of that they should do such a thing. And so it's really opened the doors for many, many people, and that's just wonderful.
There's a lot of, in, I guess, not the ISIS countries, of course, but places like Saudi Arabia, there's a lot of more women who bravely discarding the veil and being arrested and prosecuted for it. And of course, I hate to bring it up, but things like genital mutilation too, which women suffer all over the world, which, I think really has to stop. In fact, I'm glad that over here a few people have been prosecuted for that practice recently. It's there's some terrible stuff going on out there, and bring it into focus. Yeah, it
kind of ranges from casual everyday sexism, which is very, very prevalent, to quite hideous things. It's a continuum, but at all levels, people need to be aware of it.
One of the interesting things because we were talking about the United States, or at least Pet was mentioning the United States. If you go to the CNN website today, there's a very large, very long article about former President Jimmy Carter, who is now 90 years old, talking about his last cause. And his last cause is violence against women. And the article talks about violence against women around the world and in the United States. And it was published today on 1 Billion Rising Day, which I thought was very apt. So not only is awareness rising, which is what the intent is of the event, but more people are taking up the cause in terms of being leaders in it.
I was here watching, and I'll mention this while Saffia is here before we get to the news. Draxter's program, the Drax Hour radio show, broadcast from here. It was actually yesterday, but they pre-recorded it here, and they got into some interesting conversation. And call me out of touch or what? I didn't know this. I'd heard of this book called 50 Shades of Grey, and I was making, I was actually making remarks about, come on, anything serious has at least 256 Shades of Grey, completely missing the point. But again, this has now been turned into a movie or television, and it is extremely sexist and is involved in reinforcing a lot of the attitudes that this event, for example, would be wholly against.
Well, it's an interesting position. 50 Shades of Grey is meant to be a BDSM novel. And most people in the BDSM community are horrified by this because what it really is about is non-consensual sexual practices. The hero, very far from being romantic, very far from being what the BDSM community would recognize as a dominant, is in fact an abuser and a stalker. And this is kind of glorified. And It's very scary, actually. There's a lot in our culture that is pushing sexuality to more and more extreme levels. Like girls who say, and this is anecdotal, it may not happen that much, but I've certainly heard about it, that because young boys are seeing pornography and more extreme pornography on the web at an earlier age, they are thinking that sexual practices that I think we might find extreme are actually being normalized. And so girls find themselves not just being pestered for sex, but being pestered for forms of sex that are quite extreme, like anal sex.
Do you think, so much time has passed since, feminism has been around all my life. I've been surrounded by it. But, you get this talk of post-feminism now. And sometimes I think that, that all that has come down to is kind of women trying to empower themselves by imitating men rather than being feminine. And that this has actually is leading along a sort of dark road that's actually reoppressing them with just like cultural variations. And, that you look at the media and things like that. And really it's the same old of men trying to put women down as much as possible and, viewing them as somehow less than equals.
Well, you only have to look at Gamergate to see that in action.
Well, I think there's a big distinction, though, between something like Gamergate and 50 Shades of Grey. I mean, 50 Shades is a fantasy story, something like a Cinderella story, where a woman can... I mean, this is the feminist kind of review of 50 Shades of Grey, is that for some women, it's empowering to be in a situation where they feel that they don't have any control over a situation. They can relax and do stuff that they wouldn't normally do in their everyday life. But just because, like, rape fantasies are very popular with women, doesn't mean they want to get raped. Same thing, like violent fantasies are popular with a lot of people. Doesn't mean they're going to be violent. We all love watching James Bond movies, but we're not going to go out and kill people. So that it's a way for us to kind of let go of certain things without actually letting go of those things.
Here's the problem I have with that argument. In Second Life, for example, people will say, it's consenting adults and it's just fantasy and they're just playing around. You'll notice, however, that child sex is not allowed in Second Life. Even though those child avatars are adults in real life and they're consensual. We consider child sex play to be something that we just forbidden. But it's okay to slice and dice a woman in Second Life. It's okay to have rape fantasies in Second Life. That's okay. Child sex isn't, even though that's consenting adults. You're not allowed to have racist role play in Second Life. That brings people around up in arms, and they'll, oh God, don't even talk about gore. But as long as it involves women, people go, oh, it's consenting adults. That's okay. And I disagree violently.
Yeah, it's funny, and we won't even go into the furries. I mean, but trying to decide what is acceptable and what is not, what is role play, and what has influence over people is it's a dilemma sometimes, really. How far do you go with political correctness? When it interferes with freedom of speech, for example. I think we always will be facing those kind of questions. Now, Saffia, I realised that time is limited for you because, which is why we sat you on the end here, because I know you probably have to rush off and do quite a lot of other organisational things. Love to keep you around, but what else? Is there anything else that you think it's important that we know about this event or coming up?
Well, I would just say come over. There are 4 Sims. OBR Dance, OBR Rise, OBR Drum, and OBR Change. Come over, enjoy the event. There's going to be music for the full 24 hours. There's going to be performances, a few more performances. There's going to be some more poetry, which Adele can tell you about before she has to run off to her poetry session. Right. And there's going to be... there's going to be performances later in the evening. So there's lots going on, lots to see, lots to do, and art
also,
to look at. Then the Sims themselves will stay open for an extra day, so you can come over and just look.
We can't even cover all this with 3 cameras. You know, it's like nuts. It's nuts.
Wait for next year. You're going to kill me next year, Pet, because we're going to do this bigger and better with more stuff.
And Dragster wants to be up 24 hours doing
radio
show.
Dragster said he wanted to do a 24-hour radio show, which I will, of course, want him to.
Yes, he'll run off in despair after that. Right.
He'll swear way before he runs off. Don't worry.
So the recording of this show is actually up tomorrow morning, Sunday morning. So especially those of you who see it too late to actually come to the main build, the main party, as it were, then you can certainly come tomorrow to see all the art exhibits. And so there really is some wonderful stuff around there, which we will be covering shortly because we have our resident poetry experts, art experts, destination experts, and everybody else here to talk about it. But I'm going to let you go off, Saffia, because I know you need to. But thanks for coming. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Right.
We'll
bye, everyone.
Right. And rapidly twisting the camera around here so we don't you don't actually see Saffia wander off in a puff of smoke. We've got to be polite here, you know. Right, you're looking at me again. Okay, so before we get into greater discussion, some of them have already chirped in, which is great. So I'm going to actually introduce the additional guests we've got here in the studio before I get to Tara and Maria for some just news highlights. Next to where Saffia was, we have the wonderful Petlove Petshop, who's also filming us and has been filming an extensive amount of this event. So she'll be able to tell us from the camera eye point of view all the wonderful things that have been happening. So welcome, Petlove, who may well be
Thank
muted,
you very much. Yeah, I was very well, very finely muted.
Next to her, with an absolutely adorable skin. I just want to keep the camera on her, actually. But next to her is Honor McMillan, who joins us quite regularly. Honor, of course, has a blog which covers arts and destinations, and she's heavily involved in the Linden Endowment of the Arts. So welcome, Honor.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'll turn on my Inworld voice so that now you can hear me. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
I can hear you, indeed. Skype and everywhere else. And over at the other end... of course, I haven't got the name tags up. I'm trying to remember who's who. We have Taralyn Gravois, I guess is the right pronunciation, isn't it, Taralyn?
Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah, that'll work. Taralyn is another art expert, and as Saffia said, has been involved in putting stuff together here. And in fact, I've been recording a couple of shows for you recently, haven't I? Which without the avatars, but definitely art. Audio cast, so we'll come back that's a bit later. And finally, but certainly not least, somebody who's actually never been on this show and before, and I've been dying to get her on for a long while for various reasons. Her avatar name is Chili Kid, but she's probably better known as Adele Ward. She is an author. She, as you heard, has been reciting poetry and various things here. And also, of great interest to me, is she is also a parliamentary candidate for the Green Party here in the UK. And in a few months' time, come the elections, we may lose her to the virtual world of Westminster if our fingers are crossed right. So welcome, Adele.
Hello, Mel. Thank you for inviting me on. I can't believe I've never been on your show before. I've known you so well for so long. It feels like I have been here.
Yes, I think we probably encountered each other on various other shows of the way past.
Yes.
You used to actually have a regular Meet the Author show, didn't you?
I did,
And
yes,
so,
yes.
yeah.
I was just showing that to a friend who's in the audience here today because he likes Doctor Who, and I interviewed Terence Dix on that once. We had some great authors, so we've all been on Second Life. Yes, I have a real life Second Life merge. I do the same things here that I do in real life. So,
do you have an avatar in OpenSim at all?
No, I've stuck to Second Life. I'm not a virtual world type of person. You wouldn't believe that because I came on here 8 years ago because I broke my wrist ice skating in real life, not the ice skating here, and I couldn't do much. I couldn't get out to poetry events and things. My kids were very small, and I came on, and from being not a virtual world type of person at all, I've stayed here for 8 years. And my kids, they're 17 and 19, and I do go out to poetry and things in the real world, but I still love doing them here as well, so I've stayed.
Yeah. The reason I asked is we do a lot of shows over there now because it's really winding up. And on one of our recent shows, we had Nara Malone. I don't know if you know her. She's been around in Second Life, but she has a grid called Nara's Nuke, which is like a community of authors. And a lot of the authors have been given passes, and they build these little exhibits based on their works. So sort of these are actual well-known authors, or lesser-known authors as well, bringing their real-world fictions into the virtual environment, as well as meeting up and reading and stuff. And of course, Caledonia Sky Tower has the I can never pronounce it, Shanghai Library, which happens in Second Life, but also over there. So it's quite a big. I've been noticing, as we move around over there quite a lot, there's a great deal of literature community, I suppose you could say, over there. But we'll discuss that another time. But anyway, it's great to have you here. And we'll go into a little bit more detail about various things as the show progresses. We do actually have to keep this show down to a sort of 90 minutes, so we've got about an hour left. I'm going to ask Tara and Maria to try and get their sort of news highlights and takes on the week into about 7 minutes, so we can then open up the discussion. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Tara.
Well, thank you, Mal. And I do believe I can manage 7 minutes without running over. Just a small note on 1 Billion Rising, a little historic background information, I think, in our Pays blog for this. 1 Billion Rising is the biggest mass action in human history.
Is it?
Based on the number, I guess the sheer number of people around the globe who've participated.
That is fantastic.
The campaign launched on Valentine's Day in 2012 and began as a call to action based on the staggering statistic that 1 in 3 women on the planet will be beaten or raped during their lifetimes.
Yeah, terrible.
With the world population at 7 billion, this adds up to more than 1 billion women and girls, which is where 1 Billion Rising comes from as far as the name of the event, which I didn't realize from the prior years. So
that's astonishing, given that it's really only 2 years old. Well, 3, I suppose.
2012. Yeah, this is 2015. So it's had a few years to get rolling. But anyway, just because one of the criticisms that's been leveled against the event is, well, what's the follow-up action? What's this awareness business? Well, awareness is at least half the battle. So awareness is an incredibly valuable commodity. So people who underrate awareness as a legitimate goal of an event are really missing the point. People are aware of things are far more likely to act differently, to think differently, to see things differently. So anyway, enough on that. One step at a time, yeah. Let's see. I've got a number. I'll just kind of run through a very quick list of eat your vegetables items, which are the kind of the label I have long used to describe things having to do with the techie side of Second Life and sometimes OpenSim. Linden Lab has published a couple things this week of interest, and I'll certainly direct you to their blog for the details. One of which is a list of latest improvements coming along and due out in the very near future, and often already in Project Viewer. So if somebody's really interested, you can download a Project Viewer and check it out. One dealing with hover height. Another one dealing with notifications, and I thought this one was very interesting. That's basically going to enable you to segregate your transactions, the kinds of pop-ups you get into different windows. And that struck me as very useful. I don't know about any of you, but I have had the experience more than once of having a "you have just paid this person money" window pop up, and you can click OK on that. But if you click OK on that, and what pops up next is "we're trying to deliver this to you. Do you want it, or do you want to reject it?" And that button is in the absolute wrong spot. Because you click, if you're trying to click on OK, you can end up clicking on reject on the item you just spent 2,000 lindens on.
not my idea of fun at all.
That would be me. Yeah. I'm raising my hand.
yeah. So then you have to beg and whimper and get the information and contact the seller and all that stuff. Anyway, so hopefully that will make a difference in that. The Mesh Import Project Viewer I mentioned last week, that's coming along. Apparently has some fairly substantial bugs in it, but watch this space. And another new one that I hadn't heard about, graphics settings. The official viewer will shortly have the ability for you to save graphics settings based on locations. So if you have favorite places that you like to crank up the graphics on in particular ways or crank them down, you'll be able to save those settings.
Win light for hardware.
yeah. Well, it's an interesting twist on that. It'll be handy for people. And two areas, if you've had issues or have issues in these where your input may be helpful. First off, if anytime in the past year you have lost inventory in Second Life, there's a survey going on about that. Go visit and provide your input and feedback on that. And the second one is there have been increasing reports on variations of a problem with attachment rendering following teleports or region crossings. In other words, attachments seem to detach and then reattach. People see their attachments as missing, while others see them as still attached, and vice versa. This appears to be more than one issue. The lab can tell at this point, but they definitely need more information. So if you are using the official viewer and this happens to you, there's a bug you can go file on with specific time, origin, region, where you were going to, your avatar name, the item ID, some other odds and ends of information. And RPA's got the write-up on that one. So do check it out if you have had that experience or have it.
So that's living in the modern world. At
right.
blogs@blogspot.com, I think.
I think that's it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and here's another one that is of particular importance in Second Life regarding Firestorm. The Firestorm team made a decision some while back to start cutting off support, not supporting more than 3 versions back of Firestorm, and lots of good reasons for that. But specifically, they have formally announced that version 4.6.1 as of the 20th of February, that's next Friday, will no longer be usable in Second Life. It will be blocked for entry into Second Life. It will still probably work in OpenSim, but it's several versions back. So if you're using 4.6.1 still in Second Life, it is time to bite the bullet and update. Now, there is an exception to this. There is still an exemption on version 4.4.2 for Mac-specific users. But anyway, there may be a change on that. There's still around apparently 8,000 people using that version, which is pre-fitted mesh. Anyway, so that's one. Mac users should try something newer. And let's see. Two items here. I thought this one was rather disturbing. This is not virtual worlds, but if you like to run Second Life or OpenSim or whatever on a big screen, and you've just bought yourself a Samsung smart TV, oh boy, you may want to second think that. Apparently, When you handed over cash for that big new Samsung Smart TV, did you also know that you were giving permission for it to watch you too?
Yeah, that's
yeah, that's right. Just a minute. Let me finish. I'll read the rest of this, and then people can go get the information. That's right. You might only have wanted to take in some trashy TV in the comfort of your own home, but this week it was revealed that TVs come with a sort of invasive nightmare, the privacy policy that allows Samsung to record and transmit anything you say to a third party. And the author of this said, I don't know about you, but seems a bit much just to get YouTube on or any other app on the big screen. And it's unlikely to be a feature unique to Samsung. Many that use voice control systems will work in the same way, and it's how they respond to your commands. And unfortunately, Samsung also is in hot water on its new smart TV because it has been caught inserting Pepsi ads in users' own movies streamed locally. So,
nanny boo boo.
It's really funny because LG were caught out doing this before Samsung, and the funny thing is that I don't know about anybody else, but I mean I got a Samsung smart box and an LG Blu-ray player with an internet connection that goes to YouTube and stuff like that, and they're all when you buy these things on the box it clearly says Skype, YouTube, Skype, Vimeo, and, the main service is Facebook, of course, Twitter maybe. And then you get it, and then you think, well, what am I really meant to do here? Because there is no built-in camera and there's no built-in microphone. So you're getting the opposite problem because they actually don't know what you're doing. And how can you use Skype if you can't talk? But no, I think it's worrying. Basically, George Orwell's Big Brother, they didn't need to impose it on us. They managed to sell it to us.
Exactly. Anyway, last item. One of the things that Second Life has gotten lots of major media hype and bad press about has been the whole subject of sex, and that's external to the business of the appropriateness of the event today. Otherverse is now in the spotlight thanks to CNN, who has a little article interview. It's actually a video clip titled "The Future of Sex: No Touching Required." Which is currently up over there and is an interview by one of their love focus people with one of the Otherverse developers, and also it involves VR. So that was kind of what caught my attention. And I was kind of amused because the interviewer, the look she kept having on her face of disbelief, even at the sort of stuff that has nothing to do with VR, that's just, what people can do in Second Life or OpenSim or Otherverse, it was kind of this uncanny valley thing. She just didn't, it was clearly setting her teeth on edge. So at least the good news is it was Otherverse that caught the heat this time, not Second Life. So.
Well, they should.
Anyway,
have you ever been there? I spent like a nanosecond on Otherverse. It was like nasty. Anyway.
I was in there once briefly, a long time ago, and it wasn't that apparent at that time.
Mm-hmm. That was about a year ago. It was awful.
No, this was like 4 or 5 years ago.
There's actually a difference between Otherverse itself and their subsidiary Red Light District. Red Light District, you're straight in on that stuff, whereas Otherverse is a bit more. I think you have to pay them for every teleport. And there are a lot of people in there, but they actually held. It can't have been more than a year ago. I don't know what they called it, MetaCon or Metaverse Con or something.
Oh yeah, I remember some kind of a conference.
And there are a couple of interesting things on it, but in fact, it was just that mentality because you walked in. And this maybe is appropriate to this show, really. And this was a trade con about the metaverse. They were talking sort of serious subjects, and they had companies with stands. But the whole virtual replica was very old-time real life. It was the kind of thing where they sell motor cars by getting a naked female to pose on them. And, and all the hostesses, they have more hostesses than visitors. So you were forever being approached by these women. They weren't selling the red light district services, but you could tell they'd been hired from the red light district. Should we put it that way?
We call that something in the States, I forget what it is, like competition or something. And there's always more of that than anything else.
Yeah. I mean,
anyway,
it's an old adage that sex sells. So never mind. Yeah.
Well, anyway, you can watch the video, and that's it for me. And I notice Adele has to leave shortly, so perhaps we need to get her in before she has to leave.
Good grief. Okay. Oh, right. Okay. Well, Maria, if it's okay with you, we'll put you back a little bit. And
that's fine with me.
Yeah, I'll get over here to Adele again. I didn't realize. I thought we had you for the whole 90 minutes.
I thought the show was an hour, and my second poetry event is coming up on the hour now. So I thought for a moment there I was going to have to dash off, and you would have to say you haven't been on my show again.
Oh Lord, no, we can't have that. Well, right. I will just have to get you. I'll have to get you back for a longer conversation. You've got 10 minutes. So, okay. You of course have been reading a lot of poetry. I'm not going to actually get you to read a poem here, given the short time. But your impressions of the event so far, even beyond what you've been doing.
Oh, the event has been wonderful. It was last year they asked me to organise the poetry, and I went around it. The exhibits were fabulous. This year, even more so. And the art exhibits, the music, and I like to merge Second Life and real life. So I've been showing this on Facebook as well, putting links to 1 Billion Rising on Second Life, and also links to the website in real life, because I don't know how well known it is in the UK, but certainly trying to spread the word for it.
It's funny, it doesn't come up on my media radar that often, but when I heard, I think it was literally on the radio news today, that all these people are in Hyde Park. I mean, clearly it is on a lot of people's radar.
Yes.
They wouldn't have come it if there hadn't been a lot of people there. And I suspect they wouldn't have announced it if it had been a contentious subject they were demonstrating for. So, as often happens, there's a big demonstration somewhere and you don't hear a thing about it until somebody starts a riot. Clearly it has got an impact there. And actually, to be honest, I keep my Facebook sort of separate from virtual worlds. I don't, I've got simply post things like, music and politics and it's social stuff that isn't related. It's about the only channel I use that way. But generally speaking, there's no, my avatar identity and my real life identity are on a sort of collision course. They've never not been. They've never intended them not to be. So, like you, there's this kind of overlap, and regular viewers will know from my, I don't go heavily into politics on this show and stuff like that, but people know my leanings.
I don't.
Concern for the environment and things like this. And, of course, that is represented most clearly in the UK by the Green Party. And I know from Facebook, for example, you've been an activist on those issues for some time. But then a few months ago, I heard that you were nominated and were standing as a parliamentary candidate, which was great. I've got to say, I wish you luck.
Thank you.
But I think the Green Party is making inroads, shall we say.
It's surging. I mean, our membership has grown incredibly fast. The computers went down a few times. Members were joining so quickly. But I stood in the local council elections last year, and then after that they asked me if I'd stand. I hoped they would ask me to stand as a parliamentary candidate, and I thought maybe they won't, but yes, they asked me if I'd stand, and so campaigning like mad. And so just today, while this is going on, I actually get hundreds of emails every day, which is from constituents asking about the things they're most concerned about. I didn't expect that, because I get enough emails anyway, and we have to answer them all as well.
and then, of course, and very shortly, you're probably going to, as soon as it's announced, you're going to have to go on the road and knock on all the doors.
There is that, there's some questioning over that, though, whether that's the most effective use of time is to go around knocking on the doors, or some of us think it's more useful to put a stall out, and then people come to us. If we're out in the high street, I get to see more people. I collected for a food bank outside a big supermarket. I won't give them a plug. And so, I would put a table outside a big supermarket, collected food from people shopping for a food bank. And you see we collect a fantastic amount of food for a start. But also you meet far more people if you're actually out in the road. So door knocking isn't always the most effective way, which I'm quite glad to hear, because I think most people don't really like you turning up on their doorstep.
Yeah, I for one, actually.
I really don't.
What's that bell doing going at this time of night? Who on earth can that be? And, they want your time. Yeah, I think you're right there, too, because it's like a shop front, people passing by, and if there's a crowd of people around your stall, some other people come over saying, wondering what that's all about, and, viral. And, of course, we've got the online world these days, which I know virtual worlds are a bit of a backwater at the moment, although that may change with VR technologies and stuff coming online. But the actual online world, the Facebooks and the
Twitter, actually,
Twitter,
normally it was Facebook, but Twitter for the political people, Twitter is the one and so I didn't expect that either when I started campaigning. I get all these tweets, and they try to catch you out. And it's been surprising this year. I mean, people have lost their job in politics by a misguided tweet, an offensive tweet.
I was in hysterics. I was in hysterics to read. I think it was about 3 weeks ago. It was revealed. I think Obama came over here and had a meeting with Cameron.
Yes.
And they were going on about reading each other's tweets. And it was revealed afterwards that although Obama reads Cameron's tweets, Cameron subscribes to the wrong Obama. He apparently subscribes to a fake. He was subscribed to a fake one as well, Obama, and he wasn't really reading the president's tweets at all.
That can be the problem as well. You're not at all sure anybody could use your name, couldn't they?
Yeah.
But I don't think you'd get away with it though if you did an offensive tweet and then you tried to pretend it wasn't you. So you're out of the job in politics. One tweet and you're out. And of course, people are trying to trip you up because they want to get rid of you if you're maybe standing in the way of them.
But there are those who want to keep you too.
There are those who want to keep you, yes. But it can be just one tweet. It's I don't know if it's like that around the world, but the UK is like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody will latch onto something, and there'll be a whole media circus just based on 140 characters. We
let Fox News dictate the drama here.
Oh dear.
Oh well.
Well, I'm actually looking at our television monitor here, and I can see myself on my rocking chair quite happily rocking away. But I have actually crashed, so we're still going with audio. But I can't see what on earth's going on at the moment. Okay, so I think if you have to run off, I think
I do because I will be starting another poetry event, and there'll be some of SL's finest poets plus open mic all in honour of this great theme, so I'd better get myself over there.
Well, I will get hold of you and make sure we get you for a full 90-minute show at some point.
Okay.
So a lot more details and discussion.
But we're busy here today. Thank you.
Okay. Well, with luck, Petlove will sort of discreetly move her camera and allow you to sort of vanish to the poetry. And yes, we'll have you read some poetry sometime as well.
I'll do that.
About that. Okay. Very good to have you anyway here, and I'm sad it's just been a bit short, but never mind. That's life, isn't it? Okay. As I say, I'm still logging into the wonderful virtual world where I still seem to be there. I was a minute ago. I think it's time to move over to Maria. If you can try and get it into about 7 minutes, maybe just some highlight. I'm going to pass on news this week. If people want links to news throughout the week, they can follow me on twitter.com/malburns, including a lot of links to Hypergrid Business coming up. And if for Second Life, for videos and Second Life destinations, media sort of stuff, pictures, destinations, whatever, you can follow me at twitter.com/malbones_writer. And particularly as far as Hypergrid news is concerned, and of course the woman on the spot is, of course, Maria here. So over to you.
Thank you, Mal. Okay, so we've got some hardware news this week, and we have some OpenSim gambling news and some payments news. So let's start with the gambling. That's probably most fun. There's a grid called YR World that's headquartered in Hong Kong that just opened up. And I did a little tour of the grid. They're a closed commercial grid, and they're a gambling grid. That's all they do. And the other thing that they do that's innovative is they use Bitcoin for in-world payments. And now Bitcoin, a bunch of grids take Bitcoin as a payment alternative. Like you could pay via PayPal or you could pay via Bitcoin, but they use just a regular in-world currency in-world. In fact, the same way, if you wanted to, you can buy Linden dollars with Bitcoin. Just go to Gravois, and Gravois takes Bitcoin, and you can buy Linden dollars. But this particular grid actually uses Bitcoin inside the world. And now Bitcoins, there's like they're very volatile. They don't have a fixed exchange rate, and also there's a lot of each Bitcoin is worth a lot of dollars, so it's really hard to use inside a virtual world. The way they did it is they're priced in micro Bitcoins, which is 1/1,000,000th of a dollar. And of course the value of that is changing all the time, how many dollars that's actually worth. So that was pretty interesting. And one reason for that is to have untraceable payments for gambling. And the different countries have different policies about gambling. The United States has not as favorable a policy towards online gambling as some other countries do. But at the same time, Americans have a lot of money and would like to gamble online. So there's a little bit of a disconnect there.
I was just going to ask, actually, whether you know the kind of demographic they're targeting, because Hong Kong, of course, is now Chinese territory, and I gather that China's interfering more with their, kind of slight independent status. And something tells me their target is not Chinese, despite being based in Hong Kong, although you may know otherwise.
Well, given the fact that everything's in English, I mean, they do have Chinese signs up. So I think, and their welcome region is a recreation of Macau, of the Macau Central Gambling District, which is based on the grid. Really, really pretty. It's worth the grid is worth visiting just for that, just to see what that looks like. But so I think that they're going after people with money, and judging by the signage, which is in English and Chinese, they're going after Chinese people and English-speaking people with money.
Right.
In particular, they're going after Second Lifers, because the Second Life recently changed its policy on games of skill, and earlier, a few years back, changed its policy about games of chance as well. So they're going after the latest outflux of people from Second Life, and they're bringing the builders, the creators, the people who are setting up these games, and of course, those people in turn bring their customers over.
Right.
And after I started after I wrote up that story, I was adding destinations to Hyperica, and I noticed that it's not the only new grid that has a lot of gambling stuff up. Why isn't this loading? Hyperica. Hyperica is my directory of destinations. I'm doing the stats report tomorrow, so I was looking up new grids. I've added 40 new grids this week to my database.
Oh boy!
We've passed 300 active grids, It's insane.
I picked up your feed this morning, and I thought, 9 new ones. That was just today. I think a couple were duplicates. Well, there was different regions on the same grid, but there's quite a few there I posted.
Yeah, I haven't been adding every single one to Hyperica as I find it, but I've kind of the highlights. A lot of Whoops.
Well, hello. My apologies there. It does. Just a sec. I need to answer the second call too. This is typical. My apologies, folks. It seems we just lost our audio a bit there. So
it's back. It's back.
Yeah, we are all back. So carry on, Maria.
Okay. What was it? Oh yeah. So I've added like 40 new grids. I didn't have time to visit all of them. Some of them are not on a hypergrid. Some of them are small grids. Some of them are still under development. Some of them really don't have anything on there yet, so I didn't bother adding them to the directory. But I did add quite a few. In particular, the immersive reality grid has a couple of different regions of gaming. And the Axis grid, which I also just added, has the Monserrati Isle with casinos. As does the Axis Visitor Center. And the Axis grid is a brand new grid, recently renamed from, I think it was called Virtual Infinity or something. And I made fun of their name, and they changed it quickly because I kept pointing out that there are 67 other grids that start with the word virtual. Please.
Okay. Well, for the new, I'm watching the clock here. So for news on this, basically go to hyperica.com.
Hyperica has a bunch of the destinations, yes.
Yeah, and also if you're hypergridding in, it's what's the login URL for Hyperica?
Grid.hyperica.com 8022.
Right,
okay, so we have a bunch of news on Google Cardboard. LG is offering a free VR case for its G3 phone. It looks really sexy. It's really nice. Mattel has a VR Viewmaster. Basically, it's a Google Cardboard headset for your smartphone, but it's branded Mattel. It looks really cute. It also works with their reels, so it's kind of funny. Oculus has passed 100,000 DK2 milestone. So they've got 65,000 DK1s and 100,000 DK2s out in the wild right now. Those are the highlights for me.
Okay, yes. Great. Well, if anything else pops up, we'll bring it into the conversation.
One more thing. Immersis has hit its Kickstarter goal for a VR projector. You sit in a room, and it calculates the size of the room and the relationship of the walls, and it projects your VR environment onto it. So if you want to watch a VR movie, like to have it all around you, or play a VR game, that would be cool.
It works a bit like a 360 camera in reverse, because instead of filming, it projects. Yes. Could be interesting. Some of these small projectors these days are actually quite powerful, so it might take off. I mean, I always thought the holodeck would require having a spare room and painting it white and having a motorized floor and everything else, but...
Now, I don't think I wrote about this, but I meant to. A group of people got together and they pledged over $2,000 to get the LL Look At function fixed. And Dahlia Trimble stepped up and she fixed it. Yay! Thank you very much. So this helps. Apparently, something to do with vehicles, and now you can have things flying around your head and looking at you. I think.
Okay, that's good. It actually reminds me that on our show a few weeks ago, we had Nora Malone and demonstrated NPCs, non-player characters, and how we could use them to have fake me's on stage, etc. But some of those dance balls were actually creating havoc. Third Rock Grid, Great Canadian Grid, and various others actually had to ban them. And that has now been fixed. The people that make those NPC dance balls have now fixed the code. So it's now been accepted again by the grids that were a bit nervous. Anyway, let's get back to... Oh, sorry?
I was just going to say that I love this idea of user-funded development for OpenSim. Because it gets some money into the hands of the developers. It lets the users have a say in getting stuff that's not particularly sexy, that people don't want to do just for the fun of it, but that really needs to be done, and we'd like to see it fixed. And so I'm really optimistic about it.
Okay, great. Okay, let's focus a bit more on OBR and our guests. Welcome again. Sitting next to you, we have Taralyn Gravois, as I say the French way, at least I think I am. Hi, Taralyn.
Hello.
Have I got that right? How do you pronounce it?
Taralyn Gravois. That's perfect.
Yes. Oh, so it is right. Yeah. Oh, clap to me. Yeah, actually, it's appropriate that we just ended up mentioning Nora Nuke twice. But I remember asking you a few weeks ago whether you had you were in OpenSim, and you did say you did have an avatar in Nora's Nuke, I guess.
Yes.
So you've been involved with the literature and things.
Group. Yeah.
The writers group over there. Yeah.
And you know what's fun about that? I mean, you can meet the characters from the books, which is so fun because you can make avatars of characters from the books. And so I could go and click a dance ball and pick couples. And then, pick I want to dance with the vampire from, Interview with a Vampire or something. Yeah. And that makes it so much fun.
This is actually the very thing I just mentioned that's now been fixed, because apparently dancing with NPCs on some grids was causing great problems. And it wasn't the NPCs themselves, it was the dance ball. But that's now been fixed. But yes, it's wonderful. I mean, I love the idea of trying to grab people coming into our grid and sort of, I've got a thing called it looks like a stage camera in front of the stage, but it's called a 360 avatar camera. And what it does is it simply makes an NPC note card of your avatar. So, you can stand in front of it 20 times with a different piece of kit on, make 20 of your own avatars dressed up as different role-play things or something like that. But it opens up phenomenal, for machinima, for just regular shows, storytelling, and, and inside the environment, of course. It really does open up a lot of potential for the immersion. And you can also script them to a certain extent. I know there's, I got given one that is actually a greeter bot. So, I can have a copy of my avatar at the sim entrance who greets everybody and says welcome, even though I'm not there. Great stuff. So are you spending a lot of time out there, or is your focus still principally in Second Life?
Well, currently for 1 Billion Rising, my focus has been right here.
Absolutely.
And and it's been such a fantastic journey this year. I mean, I just stepped in working with artists last year with Honor, and we have such fantastic artists. We have both 2D artists as well as 3D artists, and we have large 3D builds to smaller sculpture builds that we've put in a meditation area, and the work is just fantastic. And it ranges from showing, some of the really harsh things that are going on to showing the empowerment of women and how they survive. So I can't even explain it. You definitely have to come see it.
Yeah, there's some things you really have to read into. I mean, I was here yesterday and I actually saw this, but only briefly in passing because I was flitting around setting up this set. But on Honor's blog, hello Honor, this morning, a great, rich photograph of all this laundry hanging on the line.
It's called Fresh Start. It's fabulous. Yeah, it's one of the best pieces out there.
I think are those mesh on there? by any chance? I thought they were, because they had a very peculiar quality. They're sort of quite static, but hanging on this line. And unfortunately, I haven't really seen it in depth. I don't know whether it's a comment on housewives and enslavement that way or anything like that. But, just it just stands there. It's so, dominant, all these shapes of linen and laundry and stuff.
Well, yeah, like Honor said, that one is called Fresh Start, and it's all about having a fresh start after going through something like that.
Yeah. You clean
Thus
out all the stains and all the blood. You clean it out. You start with white, clean, fresh start.
It took me a few minutes to figure the blood out. But I did. I think that's a great exhibit.
It is.
Art in general is so therapeutic. And I think, I know that I've met people, I take that back. I know that I've known people in SL that until I started working on this, stories and things that came out in their creations here showed me that they've unfortunately been victims of domestic violence in some way, shape, or form. And, that's part of it. You could be sitting next to somebody, you could know them really well. People don't just share that kind of stuff. And, you just have to remember, it's 1 in 3 women either, have been abused in their lifetime. So it's out there, it's prevalent, and bringing recognition to it and opening up the doors for conversations about it are so important.
Every little bit helps.
What's also important is Second Life to them. And one of the most moving parts of working on OBR 2 years ago, the first year we did it, that year the Real World organizers released a theme song, and we did a video. And as part of the video, 2 amazing women put together the animations for the dance. And we managed to pull it together so that on the stage you could click on it, and when we played the theme song you could do the choreography from the video. But we were contacted, I got an IM from a woman, and there is, well, I'm sure there's others, but this particular woman runs a group of Sims where victims of violence come in world, and they can't go sort of wander around Second Life because they don't want to be surrounded by strangers. And they certainly didn't want to come to an event where there might be 40 or 50 people. And particularly if any of them were men, because they are so traumatized. They can come into Second Life and find support, but they can't even venture out into the virtual world, never mind the real world. And so we set it up so that they got the live stream on their Sims of the music we were doing at OBR, and we sent them the dance ball with the choreography in it for the theme song. So every hour we played the theme song, and they could join in and dance with the actual choreography that everybody else was doing, so that they could be part of the event without having to be surrounded by a number of strangers, even if they were virtual strangers. So Second Life itself is very therapeutic.
Yeah, and the way
it's very therapeutic.
It's stuff happening.
I know it's very therapeutic.
It's stuff happening. Pet can probably tell us more about this, but AV have been broadcasting loads of the stuff that's going on, including, in fact, they're broadcasting this show too. But, it does mean that, with webcasts and things, people who really do want to stay in their, sheltered environments can actually partake. Is it happening again this year, do you know? Or I know it's been broadcast, but for that specific purpose?
They have the online link, so that they're doing it that way. I don't think they have the live stream directly to their sim this year, but they do have the online link, so they're joining in from there that way.
And hopefully many other people too. I mean, it just dawned on me. I mean, as Tara said, she was boggled at the fact that, this comes down to 1 in 3 women around worldwide. And, I just think, it may have been under the radar until they all turned up in Hyde Park or Marble Arch earlier on today. But without obvious publicity, this must be, how it is getting so much traction. The whole issue resonates with, if that was 1 in 3 people, which for the females of the world it is, it's got to be resonating, hasn't it?
There are literally hundreds and hundreds of events going on around the globe. Literally hundreds, and they're community-based, they're small. But if you do a Google search on 1 Billion Rising and find the home site on the web, you'll find a link in there usually to all of the local events that have been happening. And unlike Second Life, most of those events are 1 hour long or 2 hours long. Second Life is unusual, and they noted this to us when we first proposed it. That we would be a 24-hour event to capture all the time zones around the world. So a local event might be happening, I think, sorry, I'm having a senior moment. I know there was one in Denver because Explorer Dastardly is here in the audience and went to it. Right. So that there are local community-based events, and if you can get the press there to talk about it, that's brilliant. That increases the awareness, which is what you're aiming for.
I wonder that I suppose we shouldn't go into depth today, but I wonder if the fact it has taken off to such a degree is obviously it's the one in Fee think it resonates, but the fact that it doesn't always get the media coverage you might expect. I mean, the influx today at Marble Arch did get a coverage because it was so many people, and I guess they saw it as harmless, but. I wonder if there's a bit of a bias here in the media industry itself that doesn't really give exposure to things like this for reasons presumably to do with the owners of the media corporations and, their own biases. Because, sometimes things like this happen, which in some ways, they're sort of politically neutral because you're talking about the concerns of one half of the human race. And, yet, it won't get nearly as much coverage as something maybe quite a lot more minor.
Well, I'll tell you one reason I think it doesn't get more coverage, and this is the aged cynic in me. The title comes from the statistic that 1 in 3 women in the world, right? Yeah. And that statistic comes from a United Nations study that was published in 2010. And it was simply a compilation of statistics that had been pulled from reports submitted by world governments and non-governmental agencies or NGOs. Yeah. Some countries did not respond. The United States did not respond. China did not respond, but a lot of other countries did. But what was more interesting than the total, which was 1 out of every 3 women or girls, was that when you looked at different countries and their statistics, their individual statistics. Now, being privileged white Western individuals, you go, oh, well, we'll expect it in Nigeria and we'll expect it in Yemen. Oh, that's interesting. Singapore, terrible. Australia has a horrible record in terms of domestic violence and rape and violence against women, strangers. Switzerland, surprise, has a terrible record. So what happens is that if a country's media wants to report on OBR and they want to talk about an event, they have to talk about the statistics and they have to talk about their own statistics. And it's very difficult to talk to an Australian about those statistics, because that's something that's supposed to happen in an uncivilized country.
Yeah.
So it's one of those topics that a lot of people don't want to touch because it's too personal, and they don't realize it's going to be personal till they start investigating.
Yeah, well, it's all the more reason they need to be touching it. Yeah. No, I understand. It's complicated machinery of things, really. But yes, I'm sure that's... and, I'm surprised you say America didn't even submit figures.
No, the United States did not submit figures. The Australian numbers were submitted by an NGO. So the government didn't submit its own official figures. The United States excuse for not submitting figures is that they don't track them.
Oh, yeah. Well, not officially.
No. So,
well, you would have to. It would have to be from state level records, probably, because that's where the criminal cases would be tried.
Yeah. So it was so complicated. It's not a statistic they monitor on an ongoing basis anyway. So it's something they would have had to try and figure out how to do, and they've got other priorities.
Oh well, that's what it's all about, basically. That's why we're here today, to bring it to people's attention. And, hopefully, maybe influence the politicians to come up with statistics at a future point in time. Let's get back to the event here. Petlove, you're probably muted, so I'll give you fair warning here. I'm coming into Petlove.
You know me so well.
I know you.
How many years has it been?
Too many to recall. Right, back to the actual flavour of this event. You have been quite literally camming around all over the place, I guess.
I have, all day long.
All day long, and a few things yesterday, I presume. And I know there was a lot of shows and things being recorded.
I already forget yesterday. There must have been something.
Well, what are your impressions? Obviously, you're highly involved, you know.
Oh,
but you're the camera eyes view, shall we say. So, you know, your camera has been flitting to where the action is at any given moment, I suppose.
Well,
your impressions.
My impressions are that this is an extremely worthwhile and worthy event. I mean, nobody should be brutalized. Not just women are brutalized, but we're focusing on women with this event, and it's high time, and I'm all for it, and I think it's fantastic. You know, it's supportive. Worldwide, I'm sure it's helped more than it's hurt a lot of women. I'm sure some women have suffered as a result of standing up for themselves. You know, the brutality that we perpetrate on each other is just unfathomable. So I'm very happy to be able to be any part of anything that brings beauty and light and an attempt to cure this illness, you know? And that's my take, and everything that I've seen and everything that I've cammed and everything that I've seen in 3 years here in Second Life in their attempt to ameliorate this and some other things too. You can only say kudos, and you can only say right on, and I will always do whatever I can, you know, to contribute in some way. And people here are brilliant. I mean, I can't tell you how many talented and capable people have put this event together. I mean, you know yourself, Mal, including you. It's just gorgeous, and I'm really thrilled to be part of it in any small way, you know? And I want to thank Secret and Emma, too. Emma Way and Secret Rage.
Oh, yes.
As part of just another drop in the bucket of the organization of people, Saffia, Honor, all of you, Taralyn, you know, Maria, by supporting Virtual Worlds, you give us all more opportunities for equality. Right on. Where'd she go? But anyway, thank you, Mel. That's my take.
Had to reach.
It's okay.
Really far to
I
pull me
know
in.
the drill.
No
problem.
It was the same old "can I unmute now" business.
Can I reach my mic button?
I reach my button. No, actually, I'll just come to you for Maria in conversation here, not so much news. I mean, this is a very big event. There are comparable big events, the Relay for Life charity for things, and you know, but there are a select number of big events that do happen in Second Life throughout the year. Rather a lot for Relay for Life, in fact. So much so that you think they're different events, well, which they are, but the fundraising is the same. But you look at something like this, and as we said, the huge groundswell of support.
There's a huge real life component of this, and there's a huge component of Relay for Life, yes. But somehow I get the feeling this is a bigger groundswell. I could be wrong.
Oh, absolutely. Well, one's about charity, right? The other is about personal empowerment.
Right.
And that's what makes this different, you know, is people standing up. And we're all, you know, we've had a bit of serious stuff in this conversation, of course, but, you know, people are here having fun. They're standing up and saying, I am I.
Well, we're having fun right now because we're not in real life being abused.
Yeah, well,
you know?
yeah. But what I mean is there is a celebratory tone of stand up, rise up, of course, to this whole event.
Right.
Which puts it, although the message is no less powerful, it does put it in a sort of, you know, a more dominant light because, you know, it's it's not like a demonstration where people are saying, stand up for women's rights and whatever. It is actually, it has authority behind it, like we will overcome kind of message.
Definitely.
And, that's, I think, what is attraction is. But I'm suddenly thinking, it is all over the world, as we know, and it is 24 hours in Second Life at the same time. Maybe, Maria, we should be trying to put this onto the hypergrid next year, where every grid...
There are still 14 hours. You can put it on the hypergrid tonight.
No, I don't mean broadcast. I don't think that's practical. But, sort of in the same way the developers of Open Community and educators come together for something like OSCC, couldn't there be something? Couldn't be something like this?
A conference,
something like this could be.
The Grid Owners Association should step up and organize grid owners to do some cross-grid fundraisers, charity events, and outreach events like this one, and consciousness raising, like this one.
Yeah.
And there's one that's happening soon, Robstock. It's for a children's charity, and it's a multi-grid event headed up by Third Rock. I think we need to get Terry Ford back here and kind of nudge him in that direction.
Great idea.
And maybe some of the folks from some of the bigger commercial grids, like Avanation. We've never had any Melanie here, have we? Or the folks from Inworld, Elenia, Beth Reichel, and David Daschel?
Not recently. I think we had Melanie once in the past, but it was a long time ago. We need to revisit some of this. I am planning to do a special program too, a revival of Crossworlds with Roddy from Third Rock, Terry, as you mentioned, and Roddy from Great Canada and Tommy from Third Rock, because they are very good examples of collaboration that's going on, between effectively competing grids, but totally working together to get the whole thing working nice and smoothly.
And when that type of collaboration touches on an important issue like this, or any equally important issue, it's just really great. I mean, it gives meaning. We all come in here, fool around, Barbie doll ourselves, whatever. But when you have a chance to do something like this, it's great. It's a blessing. And hopefully it'll help some people somewhere, somehow.
Yeah. I think also you can't underestimate the expressionism that in avatars. I mean, some people role play, some people want to look like they don't really look. It's an escape or whatever. But
what do you mean?
Well, no. Hang on.
Sorry, couldn't resist.
I'll actually discreetly walk away, and I'm going to refer to our art expert, which is Taralyn over here on this one. But I actually see the virtual worlds are about community. They're about so much more, and I wouldn't call the visual quality of environments and stuff necessarily expressionist, but I do think that I would use the term expressionist to characterize the behavior of avatars in general. I mean, everybody has their specific leanings, their different ideas of whether they want their avatar to look like this, that, the other, whether it's realistic or unrealistic, but there is something very expressionist about it. And when you see avatars jumping up and down, celebrating, like you said, Pet, there's an inherent expression in our behaviors. And you've got to remember that a lot of people who are, may watch this on television, for example, or come into Second Life to see it because they may be disabled and can't go to the real thing, or maybe they're too scared for one reason or another to go out in real life. But in here, they have, an enhanced method of expression. I think is the word. And if you think of a person going into Hyde Park today, there probably are all sorts of people there, but you'd recognize, I won't call them stereotypes, there'd be a crowd of people. Some would be a bit more dressed up than others, and some would be a bit more angrier than others, and some would be a bit shyer than others, and et cetera, et cetera. But once you come into an environment like this, there is that liberation that many of those involved will be longing for, and they can express themselves how they want. They can come as a dog or a cat, or they can come as an exotic creature, or they can come as an avatar that looks close to how they look. But I'm sure people feel empowered by this sense of expressionism.
You are so right, and that is true. And that can be an epiphany for many people. All of a sudden they may realize things about themselves they didn't know or had been out of touch with. I mean, it's an emotional ride here as well, because you're so free oftentimes. That's why some people stick so long. And then that can transmute into all kinds of other aspects of quote-unquote second life. I mean, I came in here and was a socializing person the first year or two, and then I sort of settled down, found a direction, got some camera skills, and I'm a whole nother person than I was 8 years ago. And in fact, I'm about to translate my skills that I've learned here in Second Life into my local real life community's television studio.
Yeah.
In April, I'm really excited about that. I'm going to work with real equipment.
Okay, that's cool.
And it was my experience here in Second Life. Rise and Fall's another one. He's another notable, very notable, wonderful person and machinimatographer who learned everything he knows in Second Life. He works for Fox News now and does half their special effects, those transitions in between segments and all kinds of stuff, I mean, it can happen, and that's one of the great things about virtual worlds, not only for people without disabilities, but for people with disabilities. This world makes it easier for them to communicate and grow and expand, It's just great.
And that's just the skills.
Let alone
I'm thinking more in terms of if you can exist as an avatar and find like-minded people and feel liberated, where in real life for one reason or another you're not,
right,
then it puts you in a psychological frame of mind to say I am liberated, and maybe it just helps you and empowers you to overcome obstacles elsewhere.
Absolutely, right on. Rock on.
That's my take on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that sounds like a really good rap too, Mel, if you notice the time.
I thought you meant R.A.P.
Yeah, we got 5 minutes to go. So yes, I had been looking at the time. I was quite comfortable on the time today, but then it starts flying again. Okay, we'll start the wrap. First of all, though, Taralyn. If you're there, I was trying to get you in a minute ago. Just a brief overview of what you've seen. I know you of course do a lot of artist interviews and things like that. So it's curious to your overall impressions, shall we say?
Yeah, I just think this is such a fantastic event. Kind of like we've touched on the fact that people from all over the world are in here. I mean, there's artists here I've met that they're from Israel, they're from Germany, England, Spain, all different places, Italy, and it's all a common ground. The language barrier doesn't exist here. We break through that language barrier. We talk about the tough issues, and it really does, I think, help beyond borders, basically.
It's not just language; it's whole culture barriers fall down too, don't they? Because we're in a fiction of our own making, where we can embody cultures, but we can also defy them, and the results, hopefully, normally common ground, which can only be for the best.
Right, and the fact that this year we have the dance and the performance art included, we just keep growing every year. And it is empowering how many people hear about it and join us the following year.
Yeah. So, if you missed this event, folks, make a note in your diary for Valentine's Day next year. Did I mention it's also Valentine's Day? Well, you should have guessed because I'm wearing a funny hat. And it's spouting hearts all over the place. All evening. It seems to get busier at Sprouting Hearts depending on the proximity of the person I'm with. Interesting, that. Although somebody tells me it's just funny scripting. Right.
Well, sometimes though, it seemed like it generates more hearts when you sneeze.
Actually, when we heard your voice, Tara, I noticed it got a little more active there. Oops, there it goes on mine too. Oh, wow. Anyway.
Yes, funny. I don't know. They're sneaking the AIs in here, you know. And they're not telling us putting AI routines in our hats. Great. Okay, well, it's time to wrap. I'm just going to thanks very much to all the audience that are here. I can't really fully see you because I'm camera blind, or rather I'm text blind and stuff at the moment with my interface. But thanks for everybody who's joined us here in the 1 Billion Rising Sims in Second Life. It's been an honor for us to be here, and it's been a great conversation and great to see you. I'm going to wrap up as normal, but just going once round. Everybody's sort of on the panel. Just say, regardless of what we discussed so far, if there's anything exciting from the past week or the week coming up they want to mention. And I'm going to start with Pet. Allowing time for the unmute.
Yeah, thank you. Just one more time, I'd like to reiterate, if Second Life and if this type of event can empower one woman, just one woman in the world to get herself out from under that rock, then we've done good work here today. And I love the virtual world for all of the potential empowerment that resides here. And so I'm, right on to OBR, right on to women standing up for themselves, finding a way, and right on to an end of violence. We're supposed to be civilized. I'm starting to really wonder just what that means. But if we can stop beating each other up, I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Mal.
Yeah, as am I. That's you put it very succinctly and basically there. If we could just stop beating each other up, that would go a long way.
Not too much to ask, right?
Yeah. Okay, Taralyn, any highlights of last week or week coming up, or indeed anything you haven't mentioned yet?
No, I will say that I created a little piece that embodied a dream catcher, and the fact of how dream catchers catch all the bad dreams and only let the good dreams in. I think we can all become dream catchers and stop violence and stop it from getting in.
Yay! Yay, we're rounding off with lots of profound remarks tonight, aren't we?
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Okay, it's your turn, Anna.
OBR to me shows the best of Second Life. It's community, and community in Second Life is multinational. It includes art and dance and theater and music. It includes people working towards a common cause and doing it in a way that generates good feelings as well as information. And it's the reason I'm still here after 8 years.
Wonderful. Indeed. I keep wanting to keep the camera on you. Sorry, Anna. Okay. So
just get my good side, okay?
Yeah, it's all good.
She's ready, Mr. DeMille.
Okay, Maria, closing thoughts.
I wish I had something profound to say, but I just wanted to thank the people who send me emails announcing new grids. I really appreciate it. And if you have a new grid to announce, email me at maria@hypergoodbusiness.com. It looks like we're going to have a record year this year for new grids, so it's very exciting. Everybody can open up their own grid, create their own world. Empower yourself by becoming a god of your own virtual universe. You set the rules.
Or a goddess, if that's not a sexist remark.
Yes.
I think I'm allowed that one. Wonderful. And so, Tara, your closing thoughts.
My closing thoughts. Well, an item that I meant to mention earlier. Honor, you are the culprit for introducing me to Mossums.
Did you go?
I went. Not only did I go, but I now have a little group of them.
Aren't they incredible?
And they do, and they're quite amazing. But what I wanted to tell you is they just announced today that they have set up a new setup where you can have 2 Mossums and not have to feed them.
Very cool.
So if you want to, get a few Mossums and get a few things and enjoy them and not have to deal with food, now's your chance.
People have got to go check out Mossums because it's
what kind of critter is that?
Well, they're sort of
aliens.
Yeah, they're actually aliens, but they're sort of mouse-like.
Okay.
But they have a really extensive array of actions they do and stuff.
They interact with each other and with you and with it's just mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's quite impressive. All the stuff they do, and I mean, you know, I have this little group of Mossums, and they will follow me around sometimes, and then they'll do these, you know, they'll wave their hands and try to get my attention, and they'll bow and they'll do all this stuff. Well, I also have right next to the Mossums, I have a small group of Dwarfins, and the Mossums and the Dwarfins are about the same height. And I've had the Mossums follow me in amongst the Dwarfins, and there's a video in that somewhere. Anyway, that's it for me.
That's great.
That is what Tom actually didn't mention there is that on last week's show, the stage was occupied by a serious invasion of Mossums who did not stay put while we were on air.
They don't. They're quite independent.
They were great fun. I think it's a case of goodbye kitty cats and hello Mossums.
Oh, no.
No, not quite.
Kitty cats, but they certainly are quite entertaining.
I'm glad you went to
they're a different kettle of fish, so to speak, and to paraphrase something or other. Right, okay. Well, we are running out of time, but thanks everybody again. If you, as I mentioned earlier, you can find news links throughout the week, twitter.com/Malburns, twitter.com/hypergridbusiness, and twitter.com/Malburns_writer for in Second Life specific stuff. As usual, I'd like to thank our sponsors, AView TV, and I'd also like to remind you that you can watch this show in replay anytime in glorious high resolution via an iPad, maybe not a Samsung TV, but certainly some smart TVs. Also Apple, Linux, Windows, anything else you throw at it, except maybe the Apple Watch. And you can get it all at slartist.com. That's SLARTIST.com, and all our archives are there too. The recording of this will be going up tomorrow morning. That's Sunday. And for those of you who didn't make it to this event, if you are watching this on Sunday, do remember you can still get in here to see the art exhibits, even though the event's over for one day only. Yes, one day only. So with that, I'd like to thank all my guests, Saffia Widdershins, who of course is gone. So thanks to her. Special thanks to Adele Ward. If I'd known she was going to have to go off so quick, I'd have tried to have got her in a bit earlier. But never mind, we will have her back, I'm sure. Thanks also to Taralyn Gravois. Thank you, Taralyn.
She's thinking thank you.
Gone mute. Thank you to Petlove Petshop.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And thank you to Anna McMillan.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
And of course, thank you to Maria.
Always great to be here, Mal.
And thank you to Tara.
Anytime.
And without further ado, I'll wish you a very good morning and a good afternoon, even a good evening, and wait for it, a good tomorrow, depending on wherever and whenever you are. We will see you later.